Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 Phillies Science of Baseball virtual chat presented by PGW. I'm Darren Heaton, and the Executive Director for Science of Sport, and I'm thrilled to have joined you all here today. And we have some incredible guests that are going to be talking with us too. But the goal really is to explore how science, technology, engineering, and math, aka STEM, make baseball so incredible to use as a way to improve their academics. Whether you're a student who loves sports, a teacher looking for cool ideas, or a parent cheering from the stands, there's something here for you. But we're excited to introduce our guests who bring STEM to life. And first, Sean Rainey, who's the Director of Video Production for the Phillies. Sean, welcome. Say hello, and one cool thing about your job.
Thanks, Darren. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. One cool thing about my job, I got to go to the Galapagos Islands with the Philly Fanatic, and we filmed a movie there.
Well, that's tough to beat. Pretty cool. Thanks for joining, Sean. Appreciate you. We're going to come back to you with some questions. But next we have Caleb Robinson, who's the Manager of Field Operations at Citizens Bank Park. Caleb, great to have you here. Share a greeting and just another fun fact about your work.
Hey, everybody. Like Darren said, my name is Caleb. I'm the Manager of Field Operations for the Philadelphia Phillies. One cool thing about my job, I'd probably say, is that in the COVID season in 2020, we were very select few ones of the people that could actually be here at the ballpark. It kind of just goes to show how important our job is for the team. Kind of without field operations, field can't be played on. So I'd say that's kind of cool part about what I do.
Yeah, there's lots of fascinating stuff just with the weather that you have to deal with. So I'm excited to talk more with you about that. But next up, we have Cara Fiala, who's the Special Projects Manager at Philadelphia Gas Works. Welcome, and thanks for joining. How are we doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. Hope everybody's doing well over there. My name is Cara Fiala, and I am part of the Philadelphia Gas Works, and we basically provide natural and safe gas for the entire city of Philadelphia, including the Citizens Bank Park. So when you guys are cold in the winter and your heat's turning on, that's because of us. When you're at the ballpark and it's cold in the beginning of the season and the heater stations are on, you're welcome. And the hot dogs, keeping them hot. So I'm looking forward to being here today with you guys.
I couldn't go to a game without you, so thank you. Appreciate that. Excited to talk to you about, how kind of the gas is integrated into the stadium and just how the engineering elements work out. So I appreciate you being here. Lastly, we have Isaac, and Isaac Clesley Murphy is the lead quantitative analyst for the Phillies. Isaac, welcome. Thanks for being here. Same over to you. What's a fun thing that you get to work on?
So thank you for everyone for taking the time and the opportunity to speak here. I'm really excited. So I'm Isaac. I just finished my 6th season with the Phillies, and I think one of the cool parts about my job is I get to work with all of our baseball operations stakeholders. So our people who analyze and make trades, our coaching staff, our field staff, minor league staff. So getting to interact with a really great group of people with completely different backgrounds, the highlight of my job.
Yeah, and I bet we'll be able to learn a little bit about how easy it is to use baseball or softball as a way to improve or work on our math skills, especially just with all of your expertise and the way that you use it in your everyday life and job, really. So thanks for being here. Tons of STEM in that. And thank you, everyone, for being here. So really, let's dive in and discover, how we can bring STEM and sports together. So first up, let's start with you, Sean, and would love for you to just share what it is that you do as the Director of Video Production for the Phillies.
Awesome. As Director of Video Production, we interact with many different departments within the organization. One being the players themselves. Our goal is to bring them a little closer to the fans, let the fans get to know them during our scoreboard show, work with our social media team, get some content out there. If the players are doing a charity event or out in the community, we'll also be there to give, their side of the story to the fans. And it's not just about baseball. So that's a pretty cool aspect. We also work with our marketing team and our ticket sales. So if you've ever watched a Phillies game and you see a commercial for Phillies tickets or upcoming theme nights, any commercials like that would come out of our department. I did mention we work with social media. That's a group that creates daily content. So they need a lot of help, and sometimes that help comes from our team. Other times they have their own shooters, and Major League Baseball also helps out, which is very cool. I mentioned earlier, I get to work with the Fanatic, which is a very fun part of the job. The Fanatic is a very entertaining mascot, and we get to do a lot of fun, silly activities with him. Like I said, we've shot multiple movies. We do skits that you see throughout the ballpark. We'll kind of talk about that throughout the off season. So right now we could be preparing a new one. A couple of years ago, we got to create a movie with him that we played after fireworks. And then that's half my job. The other half of my job is what really you see when you come to the ballpark. So we produce and run a scoreboard show. We have over 25 freelancers between cameramen, directors, people that worry about the stats, people that worry about the music, the DJ. That's all things that our department runs on a nightly basis. So our goal at the end of the day is to bring the entertainment to life for the fans.
That's incredible. I mean, part one of that, I'm curious to hear what's been the favorite thing that you've been able to film with the Fanatic.
The coolest location I went to was the Galapagos Islands. We were doing a movie called Time Traveling Fanatic. And basically we went to the day the Fanatic was born. So we had to naturally go back to his home country and film him on the beach. But outside of that experience, we got to shoot a movie, and it was called The Fanatic Saves the Fourth. And we based it off of National Treasure, the Nicolas Cage movie, if everybody remembers that. And the Fanatic, with the help of baseball MVPs from Philadelphia, so Jimmy Rollins, Bryce Harper, he was able to save the day. For me, and maybe we'll get into my love for sports or movies later, this was an opportunity to blend the two. Growing up, I wanted to create movies. Then later in life, I decided that that's probably not the right path for me. But working here at the Phillies and with sports gave me the opportunity to do both.
Awesome. I mean, the part two to that question, well, first of all, congrats on just starting in as an intern and then evolving to where you're at here today. I think that is a real eye opener for those potential kids that maybe they didn't know that they can do these type of things for a professional sports team. And there's lots of fun things within video production elements that take place. But what I would love to hear is just with all your expertise from 2009, I believe, and then to now, is like, what have been the advancement in technology? And then also from the perspective of just when we go to games, like, how is technology used?
That's a very good question. Believe it or not, in 2009, the Phillies didn't even have a Twitter account, or X account now, which is amazing. So any of the content that we were creating was strictly for broadcast. So at the time, it would have been, now it's NBC Sports, but it would have been Sportsnet. It's amazing just the technology going from cable TV to, your cell phone. So YouTube was just starting when I was starting here, and Major League Baseball and the Phillies, nobody really knew how to use it at the time. So just the advancements of people's everyday lives and how they view content I would say, is the biggest change. And then if you look at our ballpark, when I started in 2009, we had one of the smallest video boards out in left field, and it was, not, it didn't look great. And now we have either the second or third largest display in the National League. And it is just amazing that it brings our content to life, just how good the video displays are nowadays. So I would say that's the biggest change. But I always like telling the Twitter story because I think it's amazing for the generation that's going to be watching this. They're not going to realize there wasn't a world without Twitter. And that's like us growing up saying we didn't have a cell phone to start,
I know.
But I thought that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's really great. I'm curious, what sparked your interest in video production, and how did you kind of get into this sports world? Because I feel like those that maybe want to pursue something would be kind of interested to hear when you actually said, hey, this is something I want to do, and how can I work for the Phillies?
Yeah, honestly, I wanted to make movies. I wanted to move to Hollywood. I thought I was gonna make major motion pictures. In college, I studied radio and TV communication. There was an ability for me to take an internship, and I took it with a minor league hockey team. And I realized that I had the ability first of all, I love sports, but I also had the ability to tell a story. That's what filmmaking is. It's telling a story. So at that moment, I thought, wow, I didn't realize this was even an opportunity like this in sports, because there really wasn't. When I started at the Phillies, there might have been 2 or 3 people in the department, and now I manage a department of 12. So it's really grown on that side. And then some of my peers out in the industry, just knowing the colleges and the talent coming out of colleges, because now every college is putting on a scoreboard show, or they're in control of their social channels, creating content. So there's just so much more content being created. People feed on that content, and there's a lot of great content creators out there. So your ability to tell a story, it's just what avenue can you use it for? And for me, it was sports and baseball, but there's so many different opportunities out there, and that's pretty cool knowing where the industry was back in 2009 to now. It's been unbelievable.
That's great. I love it. We'll come back to you and hear some additional advice, but let's switch on over. So we talked about how STEM is integrated into the entertainment, the technology. Let's talk about how it's tied into the field. And so I want to bring in Caleb Robinson, who manages the field operations at Citizens Bank Park. So can you describe just your daily responsibilities and kind of what it entails of taking care of a baseball field?
I usually laugh when I get this question because I get it a lot, but there is no typical day for us. There is no normal day-to-day. There could be anything and everything going on in the field. We're in the middle of November and we're setting up for a golf event right now. So there's just not a normal like Tuesday for us. I mean, we could be setting up for a concert. We could be getting ready for a game, but have a post-game concert. There could be a live batting practice that we have to get to before normal batting practice. But just to simplify it and get down to it, a normal day for us is making sure that the field is maintained to a healthy and safe standard. There's certain standards in Major League Baseball that we have to follow as far as base distances go and mound height, slope, everything like that. But there's also just an expectation with Major League Baseball players that the field performs to the best of its ability so that they can perform to the best of their ability. And also it makes a safe environment too, so we can limit injuries to the best that we can. So I'll go through a normal game day for us. Is we usually get in the morning and we get our mowing knocked out first thing. It usually takes us anywhere from an hour to 2 hours to get it done, depending on what pattern we're doing. So then we'll go into some of the dirt work after that. We'll usually water our infield anywhere from 2 to 5 times a day on a game day, just depending on weather factors and everything like that. We don't water nearly as much in April and September that we do in like July and August. Obviously, if we're in a drought, that's a little bit different story too. So we'll get some of the dirt work and everything knocked out. We do have a routine that we try to follow every day. And like I said, if there's not other factors like getting, sometimes we have post-game concerts, so they'll put a stage out in center field for that. So as long as there's nothing interfering with our day-to-day, then we can usually get everything knocked out pretty quickly. But we'll get some of the dirt work and everything knocked out, making sure that our moisture levels are right in the clay, mound, plate, and the infield. Most days, I won't say all days, but most days, both teams will take batting practice. The Phillies have typically done early work too, so they'll take defense or anything like that. So we'll set up batting practice for both teams, and then as soon as they're done, we'll tear it down, get the field cleaned up and everything, get it all lined for the game, and then barring any weather issues, hopefully the game goes on as it needs to without any interruptions. Then we do all of our repairs post game. So mound and plate, we'll fix all the holes that the players make, get everything cleaned up, clean up any debris that was on the field, water the infield again, and then just get ready for the next day.
So do you sleep with the Fanatic like in the same quarters? Because you apparently do not leave.
I've slept at the ballpark a couple of times. There have been a couple overnights that I've had to try to find the most comfortable couch and just kind of knock it out. But no, our day to day, they're long hour days. It's not necessarily, if we've got a 12-hour day, we aren't necessarily working for all those 12 hours. It's just that we have to get everything done by a certain time. So for a normal 6:40 game, we'll come in at 9 or 10 o'clock, depending on weather. We might have the tarp on and we might have to come in at 7:30, 8 o'clock if it's not raining. Or we're anticipating rain at, say, 10 o'clock. We'll come in at 8 or 8:30, try to get all of our mowing knocked out, and then put the tarp on. So yeah, it's long hour days. And even when the team's out of town, we're still doing stuff. We had an extremely busy special event schedule this year. We had 5 concerts on 4 different stages out in center field. We had a Savannah Bananas game this year. So there was a lot of extra special events that were thrown at us. I mean, that's just what our job entails. We're there to, support the team the best way they can. Any sort of money generating, like a golf event, we're going to have 12,000 people hitting golf balls onto our field for 6 days. So any money generating, any revenue generating that the team can make, we're there to support it in the best way we can. Even if that means that we're here for a little extra time, it's anything that we can do for the team.
How long does it take to remove or put on the tarp? I've always been curious about the process. We're going to talk about some science.
Absolutely,
that's a science right there. So what is that? How many people and how long?
It all depends. I've done it with 3 people before. I've done it with 33 people before. 3 people, it took us probably 15, 20 minutes. It was a real struggle. If we have our full crew, so we have a full-time staff of 7, and then we rely on 2 or 3 interns every year. Our game day staff consists of about 35. We use about 20 to 24 for a game, depending on different circumstances. So for a normal game, we have anywhere from 15 to 30 people helping us with it. Honestly, there's a good middle number. I'll say anywhere from 15 to 20. If you get more than 25 people or so on it, it kind of just turns into a struggle, because a lot of people are really eager to, especially if we're doing it in the middle of a game, which we didn't have to do this year, thankfully. But if we're in the middle of a game and the rain's coming down and we got to get it on really quick, everybody's really eager, which is awesome. But sometimes it's a little bit too eager, and then that's kind of when mistakes are made. But putting the tarp on, it's not the most fun part of my job, but it is one aspect of the job that we do have to do anytime that we're dealing with weather issues. So it's not the most fun thing to do in the world, but anywhere from, say, a minute 30 seconds to 3 minutes, we can get the tarp on the field.
That's impressive. I bet it has some good weight, and I love that you have to have a really good group do it. And so there's some teamwork
Mhm.
element to it all. And when that comes in, there's obviously weather. So what do you do to kind of prepare for weather? Like, how do you factor that in? Philadelphia is kind of interesting, and it seems like always something different. So how do you kind of factor that into how do you prepare for a game and just how you go about your job?
Yeah, so weather is the single most important factor that affects our job, I would say. Even if the team is out of town, we still have to consider what the weather is going to do. If there's no events happening whatsoever, we still have to think about what the weather is going to do. Is it going to rain? How much is it going to rain? If we don't get enough rainfall, are we going to have to supplement with irrigation? Are we going to have to turn the water on? How humid is it going to be? How windy is it going to be? Is the irrigation going to run efficiently if there's 25-mile-an-hour winds, which the answer is no. So with regards to a game happening, like I said, weather is the single most important factor that we have to consider. If there's going to be a significant threat of weather, then we will have preparations in place. So I'll throw an example out there. If we know that it's going to rain overnight, we're going to put the tarp on after the game. We're going to get everything done that we need to, put the tarp on, and we're going to know when that tarp goes on. We're going to have a pretty good idea when it's going to come off, if it's going to come off. If we're getting within an hour or two of the game time, then we're going to have to make sure that the field is ready to go for the game the night before. So we're going to have to make sure that all of the clay work is done. We need to make sure that our infield clay moisture is good, that it's not going to be too wet underneath the tarp, because sometimes that moisture will rise underneath the tarp. And then we just have to consider the fact that we may have to just pull the tarp off, put the lines down, and play. That happened at least 2 times back in April that I can remember. We started this season back in April with like the rainiest part of the year that I can remember ever starting a season, and this is my 6th season here with the Phillies. So it definitely made a challenge for us. Coming out of April, we were trying to prepare for, like I said, 5 concerts on 4 stages. So we wanted to make sure that the field was going to have the most success that we could. So that kind of contributed some more challenges. But as far as weather goes in games, we're always in constant communication. We have 2 different weather meteorologists that we utilize. One is local. They're based out of Allentown. And then we use a company based out of Indianapolis. That's more of like a national figure for us. And then when we make decisions on games, we also consult with Major League Baseball, who has their own weather sources. So there's a lot of different companies and factors in play. So we don't get to make the ultimate decision. We're going to consult with the professionals that will tell us if we have a good shot of getting the game in, how much of a window we have, if we're going to end up playing through rain, which we did back in April, a good amount, and how much might fall, how it might affect, what the game, if the game's going to get in, anything like that.
Yeah, it's a tricky factor. I mean, there's so much science involved with your job, and so like, I'd love for like anyone watching to dive into their favorite team or look up, what type of grass that they use and what type of dirt, like just because there's so much there. And so appreciate you providing a really great explanation of it all. And we'll come back to you in just a bit. But now let's move on to really the engineering and the energy side of it all. And so we talked about the technology, how that's used, how the field, the maintenance that's included with it. But we need energy and we need gas, to be able to power a lot of these things. So, Cara, let's talk a little bit about what you do and what your position is with Philadelphia Gas.
So it's Philadelphia Gas Works. We basically take this gas off the pipeline, and we have 2 purposes for it. We know in the winter it's unpredictable. Sometimes it's freezing, sometimes it's not. So we liquefy some of it, where it turns into a liquid state, and we store it. The rest we push to the city so that everyone can turn their heat on, cook their food, do what they need to do. Now, there's so many different attributes to Philadelphia Gas Works. And trying to define responsibility, and it's funny, like you said, it's not one role. You're kind of responsible for the entire show. So I help regulate the odorization system. So if it's low on odor, we inject odor. As gas is coming in, we're making sure the flows are correct so that our distribution system has all the pressure it needs, to sustain the entire city. But there's also more to that. We have generators, we have heaters, just like you do at home. We have compressed natural gas cars. It's a whole coalition of things, and we really work together as a team to make sure that our customers, the entire city of Philadelphia, has what they need so that they can keep their homes warm in the winter, the Phillies can keep their ballpark warm during Red October, and that everyone can kind of feel comfortable and confident that they'll never go cold.
That's a great description. How does everyone get their gas?
It actually comes from a pipeline from Texas. We have 9-meter regulating stations throughout the entire outskirts of the city. And think of it like the meter to your house. We pull off what we think the city demand will be. And like I said, we divide to save some. So in the winter, we can take that liquid stock and vaporize it. So you guys never have to worry about running out of gas or, hey, oh my goodness, the demand's too high. Now my heater's not kicking on. And in addition to that, we pulled off, then we regulate it, and then we send it through the entire distribution system for the entire city of Philadelphia.
Wow, quite a process. And there's such a great piece of connecting it to engineering right there. And I'd love to just learn more about like how you got into engineering. I think that's really important too right now, just as we look at young females looking to become engineers and looking for role models and looking for kind of ways that they can, be successful in that space. So I think like your expertise and some guidance would be really helpful for someone like that.
It's actually interesting. So I get asked this a lot. I did not want to be an engineer when I was in school. I didn't think I had what it took. You think engineering, math, science, it's intimidating. It sounds hard. But I took a class one day in high school, and it was basically an astronomy and robotics class. And I figured, I like space. Robotics sounds hard. But once I went to that class, I fell in love with how things worked, why things worked. And I was pretty good at math. So my professor at the time was a nice mentor. They pushed me into the direction like, hey, try engineering, see how it goes. And I fell in love with it. The science, the arithmetic, the logics, the patterns. And it is intimidating. Like you mentioned, there's not many females in this field, but we're growing. And any student out there, regardless of who they are, where they come from, it's possible. And science is in everything we do. I mean, look at the Phillies stadium. You guys have the science, math, technology for the Jumbotron, how the seats are laid out, how the distance between the bases, how they just increased the base size, how, hey, the batter hits the ball. Now our outfielder has to automatically calculate the drop of the ball to make that catch. I played softball my entire life. So it's funny the correlations you find between technology, math, engineering, and just sports. We all work together as a team. So it's very interesting when you start to see the patterns and it comes to light. But like I said, it does take a team to make the dream happen. And without you can't pick up one thing and add math and science and not be involved with it. Your phone, your radio, your computer, your TV, a couch, a chair. It's involved in everything. And that's kind of got me on that track. I thought, how does this work? How does that work? Huh, okay. And then you kind of start building on that and you start asking questions. And you're not going to know all the answers. You're not supposed to know all the answers. You're not supposed to be good at everything. But that's when you learn. And that's when you keep applying yourself. And you get into that mentality, hey, I'm a team player. I want to leave it better how I found it. So then you take those additional steps to kind of invest in yourself, invest in your growth, invest in your team. And just that satisfaction of seeing your growth and seeing what impact you leave on a team, it really does. It amplifies your value and how confident you are. And that all comes with time. You're not going to be perfect. And that's okay. But I always live by that motto. If it's to be, it's up to me. If I want something, I need to devise a plan to figure it out. And then you have people around us. And I'm sure every single one of us here has had somebody in our life who helped us get to where we are today.
Yeah, that's a powerful message. So thank you for sharing. You know, keep exploring, stay curious, be open to learning, and teamwork makes the dream work. So I love all that. All right, so one last question. What's one unique way that people wouldn't think that, you know, gas is or power is tied into Citizens Bank Park? Like that it's how is it being powered?
Well, it is pipelined in, but many people don't think of this. But you guys use a lot of gas for all the food you guys cook. You know, in the beginning of the season when it's freezing and you're trying to find areas, like maybe in the bathroom where it's nice and hot, that's because of natural gas. You got your hot water when you're washing your hands from natural gas. Depends. I'm not sure if Citizens Bank Park has boilers, but guess what? They run off natural gas. And even when the players need to wash their jerseys, well, the dryers, natural gas. There's a lot of functions and benefits natural gas brings, and it helps Citizens Bank Park become and give out the experience to its fans. All the little portable heaters, again, all the foods. Hey, maybe eventually you guys will have compressed natural gas cars. Who knows?
It's a great little hidden like science, you know. It really is such like a thing that's crucial for everything, but oftentimes it goes overlooked. And so thank you for keeping us nice and warm. And next time you're cold, bathrooms, great spot.
Fun fact.
I know, right? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Let's talk some numbers though. So Isaac, tell us a little bit about, you know, your position with the team as the lead quantitative analyst, and kind of how you got into that role and what you do.
So I'm an analyst in the research and development department. So that's you think the number crunchers in baseball, that's us. And really our job is just trying to use math, statistics, programming to try and help the Phillies find an edge on the field. So that can take the form of, you know, predicting which players are going to be good over the coming seasons. It can be in-game strategy questions, which I work a lot on. You know, what move should we make? Where should we position our players? Using math, statistics, predictive modeling in particular to try to answer baseball questions and help the team win. As for how I got in, I would say, you know, since I was little, I always just enjoyed math classes, never really knew why. Kind of just kept taking them as they came to me, and also grew up a baseball fan. I was just watching a lot of baseball. And that was at a time when baseball and statistics and numbers were really starting to be married publicly. You know, there's the famous book and movie Moneyball. People were writing a lot about it. So just kind of followed my interest in those two things. Really, you know, through high school, took as many math classes as I could. In college, took, you know, just kind of kept taking the math classes, even though they were scary. Found them fun. And then one day in college, saw a posting for the Phillies. I went to school about 20 minutes from Citizens Bank Park, and just thought, you know what, might as well apply. And that's how I landed here. So I think really just kind of following my two passions and interests, and seeing that they could go together, was how I got into the industry. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. I mean, you know, for numbers, you know, math in general, a lot of kids are kind of struggling with it right now. And so I'm curious, like, at what point did you find this real interest with, you know, the looking into the numbers, and, you know, how did you kind of say, like, this is something I want to do or want to use, and really from like the mindset side of, what made you feel comfortable with it?
Yeah, so I would say maybe to trace back kind of the interest. As a little kid, you have a little collection of baseball cards or whatever, and I always enjoyed reading the back. You see the statistics on there, your basic batting average, games played. And so just, even flipping through those cards, you see the numbers next to a player and you start to wonder, what makes a player good? Why are they valuable to teams? So that kind of spawned the initial interest. And then, in particular, as I went on, some of my high school statistics classes, like very kind of my intro to statistics. And then later on in college, I used baseball because there's so many opportunities to apply statistics, just kind of as a way to practice. There's all these data sets out there in the public, anything from the measurement of how fast a pitcher's throwing, how fast the ball is coming off the bat. Started using all this publicly available data to kind of practice what I was learning in class. And so I think, math and statistics have a reputation of being maybe dry or boring. But when you get to go try it out in the wild with something that you enjoy and is fun, that makes it a lot more fun to learn. So, I think that's kind of, as I got older, how I started to marry the two, and both kind of fueled the passion for the other. You'd see something happen at a baseball game, and you'd wonder, how could I predict that? And you're sitting in class and they're teaching you some technique or theorem, and you're thinking, oh, this kind of relates to baseball. So, I think that's kind of how the two interacted for me, especially as I got into high school and college.
That's great. I mean, I love that baseball card example, because there's really a lot of ways that you can use it to help with your math skills. And so I'm just going to give a couple. One, simply partner up with another kid, drop the baseball card, and try to see how many you can catch out of 10. And then you're going to have to calculate your fielding percentage there. And so if you look at the back of that card, or even just go and find your favorite player's fielding percentage, see if you can match it up with what their fielding percentage is. And then also is statistics for batting average. So just take, like, roll a die and see if it rolls a 1 or a 2, that's going to mean you get a hit, and anything else is an out. And see if you can match your favorite baseball player's batting average there too. So lots of great purposes for a baseball card. But I want to go back to what you're mentioning about in-game kind of decisions that are being made and helping out in that space. So how are you using, math in that sort of situation, while, maybe you've seen some sort of data point come up and say, okay, well, now let's do this. So I guess, how do you use math in your job?
Yeah, so I think one of the beauties of working in baseball is that they collect so much data. So anything from, the flight path of a pitch, the trajectory of a hit, where each player's, limb was at different points in time. So a lot of my work is just combining, that data set, all those data sources, into predicting baseball outcomes of what's going to happen on the field. Is a pitch going to cause the batter to swing and miss? Is this pitcher going to walk a particular batter? And then when you have predictions for those things, you can start to make or inform strategy decisions. Which pitchers should pitch here? What are some good matchups for us? What are some bad matchups for us? How do we want to build a lineup? Just trying to use those kind of baseline level baseball outcome predictions and aggregate them into just general strategy takeaways.
That's awesome. I mean, there's a lot. And is there an off season for you typically, or is it just kind of switch over?
It switches over, and I think you roll over into the off season and you're tired, you recuperate a little bit, but I think everyone here is so passionate about baseball that people can't sit still for too long. They want to jump back in and get working towards the next season.
I think we're all antsy now. We're all can't sit still. There's something, some piece of STEM technology that's keeping us engaged. So you mentioned a public resource to go and look at some of these data points. Can you share that?
Yeah.
If you have one that you like using?
I think a really great one is Baseball Savant. So baseballsavant.com, it's run by Major League Baseball. And they do a really good job of publishing kind of the advanced stats. And it's a lot of things like, what makes a player good. So it can be anything from their sprint speed, how well they're getting to balls in the outfield, what a pitcher's best pitches are. So I would recommend for anyone, pull up baseballsavant.com as you watch along in a game. They have so many cool visualizations and graphics. It's a really great way to engage with the game. I think there's so many people in my department in the industry where Baseball Savant was a bridge to pairing baseball with math and statistics. So I think that's a great starting place.
And thanks to StatCast technology, all these stadiums, they have, 12 HD cameras set up there, and it's kind of pulling all of this information. So any movement the player has, any pitch that is thrown, and then it's compiling it and then putting it onto Baseball Savant, and making it accessible, typically in real time and very fast. And so you got to respect the technology that has been put into all of these stadiums too. And I'm sure Sean has been able to use this within the entertainment side of it all as well. So thanks for that. Thank you all for just kind of going and talking a little bit more about each of your guys' positions and specifics of how STEM is integrated into it. I just want to finish it off with each of you providing some advice for any students watching that maybe want to get into working within your job, or how they can go about that. So we'll just go back in the same order. So Sean, how about you, sir?
Absolutely. The biggest advice I can give is don't be afraid to try something new. Technology is always advancing, and it's advancing quicker and quicker than it has ever in the past. And alongside of that, don't be afraid to fail. I know I failed in my career. I know I failed in day-to-day, and I failed with new technologies. But what you learn from the failure is probably the best thing you can do for gaining more experience and finding a better way to do things.
Growth mindset. It's some great advice. Even if you're not successful at something, be open to trying it, be open to failing, and keep going. So that's some great advice. How about you, Caleb?
Yeah, really similar to what Sean said. Some of the best advice that I was given before I entered this industry was just get outside of your comfort zone. I'm originally from Indiana. I had no intentions of leaving the state. I didn't think that I would ever end up on the East Coast, let alone 10 hours away from home. But to get into this industry, specifically in sports turf, if you want to be at the major league level, there's only 30 places you can go. And being in Indiana, I was going to have to leave the state no matter what, because we don't have an MLB team out there. So yeah, I got out of my comfort zone, and this is where it led me to. And now I'm actually super comfortable living out here in Philadelphia. I do miss home a lot, but I've kind of made Philadelphia my home now. It's been great, but just if I hadn't have taken that advice just to get outside of my comfort zone, I probably wouldn't have ended up where I am now.
Some excellent advice. All right, keep it going here, Cara.
When I was everybody else's age in middle school, I always thought, oh goodness, I don't even know what I want to be. So I guess my advice to everybody watching would be, you're the main character of your own life. You're the main character of your story. There are going to be so many things in this world that make you uncomfortable. But if you just go for it, you'll look back and think, I'm so glad I took that chance. There's a bunch of W's and L's in life. You got wins and you got lessons. So you're not always going to win. No one always wins. No one bats us out like a one. No one does that. We're gonna have some strikeouts. We're gonna have pop flies. But you know what we learned? Okay, I dropped my shoulder on that. okay, I hit above the ball, so it's a ground out. We adjust, we adapt, we adjust. Everybody has passions, whether it's school related, hobbies. Hey, I like to knit. Hey, I like to read. But what do all of that have in common? Intensity, consistency, determination. Consistency is the big one. Be consistent with yourself. Consistently invest in you. You can only get better if you just keep trying. Can't get worse. But just keep doing it. And if it's to be, it's up to me.
That's some great advice. And I also love just baseball for that reason. You know, these are the best in the game, right? Like they're elite athletes and they are succeeding 2 to 3 times out of 10, right? Like, and they're the best in the game. So they're very much in that same mindset. They're open to failing. They're open to improving. They're figuring it out as they go. And so again, be open to failure, be open to keep on trying, and remember that like if you're a Hall of Fame player, you know, you're only succeeding 3 out of 10 times and sometimes. So another really great lesson there. So Isaac, love to have you bring it home here.
Yeah, so I think my kind of advice would be that there's no single path into baseball, and teams hire like all sorts of people with all sorts of backgrounds. It doesn't really matter who you are or where you come from, as much as, you know, what perspective can you bring to help a team win. I don't think I mentioned this in the introduction, but I don't come from a playing background. I played lacrosse, which is like the rival sport to baseball growing up. So I guess I'm the one lacrosse guy who ended up going over to baseball. But that's to say, you know, there's a million different paths into the sport. You know, trust the one that you're on, because there'll be a place for you.
Great advice from everyone. So again, thank you all for joining. That's all we have time for today. Really appreciate everyone watching and joining the Philly Science of Baseball Dugout Chat. Thanks to our incredible sponsor, Philadelphia Gasworks, for making it all possible. And see you next time. Keep exploring and stay curious.